everybody. Today I'm going to do my first Evercade game review, and today I'm going to look at Atari Collection number 1. This comes with a very nice full color manual that gives a little bit of space to every single game in the collection. It's not a super in-depth look at every game, just a basic overview how to play. So you may have to look up the manuals online of the originals if you want to know some more about the various variations that some of these games have. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and take Atari Collection number 1. Let's pop it in my Evercade and see how it holds up today. Let's go to the game. Atari Collection 1 is Evercade Cartridge 01 and was a launch title in May of 2020. It has also served up to this point as the packing game for the system, coming both with the regular pack and the premium pack. However, it is possible that at some point in the future, it may not be the packing game, but might be available separately. Of course, that is just a possibility and not a guarantee. The cartridge contains an impressive 20-game selection from both the Atari 2600 and 7800 library. The menu screen is fairly simple, using left and right on the D-pad to rotate through the games and pressing the start button to start a game. The games are in somewhat alphabetical order, so games that begin with the letter A will come first, but the order within the letters is a little bit more random. For instance, Alien Brigade is listed before Adventure. When playing any game, you can hit the menu button to access an option screen where you can save and load games, change the screen ratio from full screen to the original ratio, and quit the game to go back to the menu screen to select another title. You can also use the menu button as a default pause button, which is handy for 2600 games since originally many of them couldn't pause. For several of the games, you can use the select button on the handheld just like you would the select button on the system, and the start button as a reset button of sorts. The A button is the default button for games, with the B button used as a secondary button for Atari 7800 titles that use two buttons. Alien Brigade is the first game. This is for the Atari 7800, and it's a rare late release. This game was designed to be like the light gun game Operation Wolf, but plays very well with the D-pad and buttons. This is a very well-made game and highly recommended, but it's also the most bloody game that appeared on the Atari 7800. Adventure for the Atari 2600 is next. This is an all-time classic and one of the best games for the system. It makes a welcome addition here. Aqua Venture for the 2600 is the next game. This game was not originally released during the 2600 lifetime. It's a pretty simple game. You dive to the bottom, shooting or avoiding enemies, gather treasure at the very bottom, and then bring it up to a mermaid on top before you run out of air. It could get repetitive, but it's nice to see these type of unique games included in this collection. Asteroids for the 2600 is the next title, an all-time classic that is still fun to play today and works pretty well on this system. Canyon Bomber comes next for the 2600. I consider this a hidden gem on the 2600, especially the main variation where you try to blow up bricks while at the same time trying to get a better score than the computer. Miss too many times and your game is over. Canyon Bomber also has a second game variation, which originally used the paddle controllers to aim a dotted white line. However, for whatever reason, you cannot move the line in this port, making this variation unplayable. Still, it's fun with the basic variation. Crystal Castles for the 2600 is the next game. This 2600 port has grown on me a little bit over the years, but it still can be tough to control. This is kind of a middle-of-a-road game in my opinion. The next game is the 2600 version of Centipede, another all-time classic that controls rather well with the D-pad. Double Dunk for the 2600 is next. I'm not very familiar with this late release, and personally, I would have preferred the original basketball to be included instead. However, this one might grow on me as I get more experience with it. Desert Falcon for the Atari 2600 is the next game. The 2600 port is technically impressive, however it's not nearly as good as the 7800 port in my opinion, which is included in Collection 2. The next game is Food Fight for the Atari 7800. This arcade port is considered by many to be one of the best games from the Atari 7800 library, and I'm very glad that it's included in this collection. Gravitar for the Atari 2600 is the next game. One of the toughest games on the system, it can also be enjoyable if you have the patience. It makes a solid addition to this collection. Missile Command for the 2600 is next, another all-time classic that is still fun today and controls well on the Evercade. The next game is Motorcycle for the 7800, another rare late release for the 7800. This racer plays a bit like a motorcycle sequel to Pole Position 2. One unique feature is that you can use the second button to jump your bike. It's an okay addition here. The next game is Night Driver for the 2600. Originally a classic paddle game, it simply does not control well here using the D-pad, which is a disappointment. In my opinion, it would have been better if they replaced this game with another one. Ninja Golf for the 7800 is next. Another rare late release for the 7800. It's also one of the quirkiest and most enjoyable. It's neither the best golf game nor the best action game, but combining the two makes for a fun, unique title. I'm very happy to see it on this collection. Steeplechase for the 2600 is the next game. Another game that was originally a paddle game where you could use the paddle to adjust the height of your jump and press a button to jump. But for some reason in this version you cannot adjust the height, but you can only jump. Consider this another game that probably should have been replaced. Swordquest Earthworld for the Atari 2600 is the next title. Technically impressive, the game plays like a sequel to Adventure mixed with some mini games. However, figuring out what you need to do is a confusing mess, making this game simply filler. Tempest for the 2600 is the next title. Based on an unreleased prototype, it's an okay addition that serves more as a curiosity than anything else. The next game is Video Pinball for the 2600. When you learn how to master the nudge, Video Pinball is a true classic and a game that I can always return to. Yars Return is the final game. This Atari 2600 homebrew sequel plays like Yars Revenge on steroids. It's okay, but I like the original better, and also the graphics glitch quite a bit. Outside of the glitches in Yars Return, the emulation on this collection is surprisingly good, to the point where I couldn't notice any differences right off the bat. I'll even include small clips of all the games at the end of this video so you can judge it for yourself. Family friendly wise, the game received a 12 rating in the UK, which is close to our T for T rating here in the United States, most likely due to the violence in Alien Brigade alone. The rest of the games are pretty tame. So what do I think of Atari Collection 1 on the Evercade? Overall, I am pretty impressed. The emulation is good, and outside the paddle-controlled games, the games control pretty well. And while I personally could have done without the paddle games and Swordquest, I would consider a third of the titles top-tier inclusions, which seems like a good ratio for a collection like this. I'm also thrilled that some Atari 7800 games are finally getting proper re-releases, especially some of the late releases like Alien Brigade and Ninja Golf, which are rare and expensive to pick up in the original cartridge form. However, there is one bummer with this collection: the use of the difficulty switches or lack thereof. While you can easily play most of these games just fine without flipping the difficulty switches, for some titles you could change them to use the difficulty and such. Yet neither the game nor the manual don't mention how to use them. It does seem to me that using the left shoulder button will flip the left difficulty switch from B to A. I was able to do this to add drain holes to Video Pinball. However, once flipped, I couldn't flip it back. It's possible that this will be, or already has been, addressed in a firmware update, but I'm using my system right out of the box for this review. However, despite some drawbacks, I still enjoyed this collection and believe it serves as a solid packing cartridge for the Evercade. Usually at this time I rank the reviewed games against other games on the same system, but since this is my first Evercade game review, that will have to wait until I review another Evercade game, something which I plan on doing pretty soon. Atari Collection 1 isn't perfect, but it offers some great Atari 2600 and 7800 fun for the Evercade. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me both on the Facebook and the Twitter, and click the bell so you don't miss any future videos. At this time, I'd like to thank Richard V for his generous support on Patreon. If you think these videos give you at least $1 worth per month of information and entertainment, please consider joining my supporters at patreon.com/NoSwearGamer. Not only will you help keep the show going, but you may also get a chance to nominate and vote on games for me to review. Thank you for giving me a little part of your day, and look forward to seeing you next time in the next episode of the No Swear Gamer. Take care and go play a round of Ninja Golf on your Evercade.